What's up, HyperFast Nation? On this episode of the HyperFast Wealth Show, we've got a special guest. He's got an amazing background in several different industries in sales. He started his own real estate investing company last year. They did nearly $1 million in wholesale fees. He's got a real estate meetup group where he helps educate and train new investors. Welcome to the show, Matt Fullerton. All right, welcome to the show, Matt. Thanks for joining us today.
Thanks for having me, guys.
Yeah, it would be nice if we could do this in the office, but we still got COVID going on, as I'm sure everyone out there listening and watching is aware. But nonetheless, here we are on Zoom for another great episode. Matt, I'm sure you've got a lot of great stuff to talk about today.
Think so.
Before we dive into like what you're doing now, how you've actually expanded your business during the COVID-19 pandemic, why don't you give the listeners a little background about yourself and how you got into real estate?
Sure. Yeah. So I'm a lifelong sales guy. I've actually got my first sales job when it wasn't even legal for me to get it at a car dealership. I was still 17.
So, how is it not legal? What was
I guess you had to be 18, but I had a birthday in a couple of weeks and they hired me and let me start and train and stuff.
Just
like that.
to work or to sell a car or
Sell cars. Yeah. Get a sales license, I think, for selling cars. Yeah. In Maryland, you need a sales license. And so I had to get that and you had to be 18. But so I trained for a couple of weeks, got my sales license. I sold cars for a good long time. I was, always a top guy at the dealership. I got promoted a bunch, moved around to a lot of dealerships. Anyone who knows the business knows it's a pretty kind of a throwaway business. You're a hero 1 minute and a loser the next. So,
you get a lot of repeat clients in that business?
There's a fair amount. It depends.
Yeah.
For good salespeople, there's a lot of repeat clients and a lot of referrals. But for, just the average Joe, it's, just trying to get people who come on the lot. And this was, real early 2000s. So, I used to hide in the bushes at the front of the dealership and jump out in front of cars that pulled in and walk them over to the front of the dealership, just so that the other guys couldn't get them before me. So I was in the car business a long time, ended up being a general sales manager at a dealership. And I was working 80 hours a week, at least 7 days a week. My kids were growing up. I wasn't seeing them. And I had another kid on the way. And I was like, man, I don't want to do this. I just didn't want to do it anymore. And I had one of those, I call them, I don't know if I can curse on this podcast, but I call them.
I'm all for it or allowing it. Freedom of speech.
If you've read any MJ DeMarco stuff, he talks about a fuck this event. And I had one of those on the way to work one day and just walked in and I quit. I had to turn my car in right there and everything. And I had to get my dad to come pick me up because I didn't even have a car to get back. Got to get my dad to go. Didn't even have a car to get back.
They didn't have Uber back then, right? Or
no, there was no Uber. There wasn't Uber quite yet. Yeah, unfortunately, I had to call my dad and wait around awkwardly till he got there. But so I left the car business. I ended up, I got lucky. I ended up talking to a guy who worked in private equity. If you know those companies that buy, your structured settlement annuities, lottery annuities, and convert it and pay you cash. There was a company like that, one of the higher end ones that did $5 million plus annuities. And I got a job there as a executive buyer. And basically the function there was just travel around the country and talk to these lottery winners, these structured settlement holders, these corporate merger, these guys who are corporate guys who got an annuity when they, were fired or whatever, and see if we could, convert that into a lump sum. So that was some real hands-on, in people's living room sales for me. And I think that prepared me really well for real estate. So the big states in that industry started getting heavily regulated about in 2014, New York, Massachusetts, California, and really crimped the business. And my wife had gotten her real estate license a couple years before that. And she ran into someone from Express Home Buyers who was looking at a house that was one of her listings. And I said, hey, if you know anyone, hey, would you want a job at Express Home Buyers? And she said, well, not me, but my husband's a really good salesperson. So I talked to them, and they hired me as a acquisitions guy, just real basic, just to see what I could do. And I got promoted pretty quickly. First, I was a
Can
home buying.
you explain real quick to everyone just what Express Home Buyers does, just so they kind of have the context of
Sure. Sorry.
what
Yeah.
you're
Express
doing,
Home
because
Buyers.
it's a little different than general brokerage.
Yeah, no problem. Yeah. So Express Home Buyers was and is a real estate investment company. Back then when I started with them, they were a large scale flipper. They would have 30, 40 projects going on all at once. After I got there, myself and the COO transitioned them over to wholesale. And for those of you who don't know what wholesale is, it's when what we do is we go and get a property. We agree to a price on the property. We locate a seller. We contract the property off market, and then we will sell that property to another investor for X amount of profit, and move on from there. So that's one exit strategy that we have. And Express Home Buyers wasn't doing that when I got there, but when I arrived, they were doing a ton of flips, and they were in the new construction partner they had overpromised big time, and they were hemorrhaging money. There was almost looking like things were going to go under, like the company might go under based on, and we decided that, hey, we have this great acquisitions arm. Let's take these houses we're contracting and generate some cash through wholesale. So we did that. And I think in the second month we did, in just a month, we did like 1.3 million in wholesale fees, just huge amounts.
Oh, wow.
And from there we decided to, decided to put all our eggs in the wholesale basket. So for a few months there, it was just, $1 million month every month. And then everyone else started catching on. Other companies started, entering the space more, and it got real competitive. I was the director of sales and acquisitions then, and they brought in a new CEO, a mortgage guy from California, or from Chicago rather. And he really reminded me of an old school car business manager, wanted everyone working. He tried to mandate a minimum 50-hour week. And I was like, pretty sure that's illegal unless you're paying overtime, or it's a, I don't think you can mandate 50 hours a week, even though, we were already putting that in. And then there was a bunch of other issues too, and that I won't get into. And I just decided at that point it was time for me to step away from Express. And that brought me to starting my own company. We started Chesapeake House Hunters in the fall of 2018. Myself and my partner, Daryl Wilson, he's the COO. When we started this, when I had left Express, I was under the impression I had no non-compete. When I negotiated my last promotion, we had removed it. But that was from the COO who had departed, and the CEO at Express said, "Oh, I never would agree to that. That's not valid. We'll take you to court." And someone who was just starting out a new business, I was a little nervous about that. So I said, so we ended up negotiating and agreeing to some marketing restrictions. And for the first year in business, we couldn't do any. We couldn't, buy lists and skip trace them and call them. We couldn't do PPC, no TV, no bandit signs, nothing, no marketing whatsoever. So we had to figure out, hey, how do we get deals? How do we make money without being able to use the traditional marketing channels? And that made us into this real niche company. And we've actually, even since we've long passed that deadline for marketing, we still don't spend much on marketing because we have figured out a way to do it that's much better.
So what's the secret?
So the first thing I did was say, hey, look, a lot of the, my wife's an agent. I'm an agent, but even though I don't do any agent stuff, and I'm part of a brokerage. So I went to my brokerage and said, look, you guys get listings all the time, so listing appointments all the time where the house is nasty, where, you don't want to go in there, you don't want to show it, you don't feel like doing the paperwork on it, it's going to sit on the market, it's just an ugly house, it's going to be an issue. Instead of that, when you get those, call me, I'll come take a look at it, I'll make you an offer right there, you keep all the commission, you don't even have to do the paperwork. You just bring the house to me and I'll see if we can make a deal. And that started to work. I went around to a bunch of different brokerages and made this pitch, including my own, and we got deals. We got a lot of deals that way. And then, the second thing I thought was, when I worked at Express, we had tons of leads coming in from paid marketing. So there would be, dozens of leads coming in per day. And, what happens to those leads when there's 4 or 5 sales guys and, 10 come in, you call them all, and then more and more and more come in. Eventually the older ones start just getting pushed to the back and they don't get followed up on properly. So there might be a couple follow-ups from a salesperson on each lead, a couple calls, but then it goes into a drip campaign. And what a drip campaign is, like automated texts, emails, things like that. And they just don't get worked very hard. So I was like, man, if we could get a hold of leads like that and really grind on them, I bet we could make deals. So that was my pitch to other established real estate investment companies. Hey, you've got nothing to lose. You've got these old leads. For more or less, for your purposes, they're dead. Send them to me. If we get them under contract and assign them, we'll split the profits with you. You don't have to do any work. You just sit back and collect your checks. So it's found money for you. And luckily for us, a couple companies started doing that, and we started getting deals pretty rapidly. And at this point now, we work all the new paid marketing for several companies. Like their leads come directly to us because it just works better that way. We get them under contract. We deal with it. If they want the house, they keep it. If not, we wholesale it and split the profit with them.
Wow.
And that brings, hey.
And what are you typically wholesaling, or do you keep them, redevelop them sometimes? Like what's usually your exit on these deals?
Our main exit has been wholesale.
Okay.
Last year in 2019, we did 46 deals for $946K in wholesale fees, and that's with no marketing. So we had a good year in wholesale. That being said, we have started to take down some more flips, just because especially with COVID happening and the way that some lending has dried up. We figure, hey, why take a small wholesale fee because lender guidelines have tightened up when we could, flip this ourselves and make 50, 60, 70 grand.
How has it been since COVID? Have you seen a difference in two things? First, your ability to find deals, and then second, your ability to find buyers for those deals?
So for the first part, we have seen some difference in our ability to find deals, but I would say that that's offset by another segment of sellers who want to sell. So what we've seen is a lot of older people or people who live out of state that have houses they want to sell but don't want to do anything until COVID is over, because they're nervous or they're at risk. But at the same time, we've also seen a lot more landlords, vacation rental owners reaching out, talking about wanting to sell their property. So I really think it's evened out there on the seller side. We're not having a ton of trouble procuring deals. On the buyer side, however, there's a lot of lending, hard money lending tightened up a lot.
Yep.
And percentages changed, points went up. So all of a sudden the deal that made sense 3 months ago now is in the red. So we've had to adjust our percentages and keep track of our buyers and really grind on getting buyers into the program so that we can move our deals.
Yeah, I'm in the investment and the agent world, and what I noticed is less transactions, occurring.
Yeah,
for sure. But our team's been doing more just because we market more, and the pricing has not changed. If anything, it's gone up, and there's more bidding wars because there's maybe some sellers holding off, but there's not as many buyers holding off. So the ratio of buyers to sellers has kind of stayed the same, but the one area I've seen that has gotten harder is that investor money. So investors buying deals, they can't get hard money loans and non-traditional loans as easily. Points have gone up, rates have gone up. Investors want more security, and that's because back in late February, March, the stock market went down and secondary market on lending went awry, and I think there was this rush to cash, and that was part of it. And there was probably also fear, and it's just interesting times, and who knows what direction it all goes. And I think the stock market is like almost back up to its high now, which I'm not in stocks, so I don't watch it, but
yeah, when it got real low, I bought some airline stocks, but I usually let the FA take care of that. But so we've seen, especially in retail, like on the market, of course inventory is like extremely low. We're seeing flips are renovated houses are in super high demand, nice houses, and we're seeing bidding wars. We did we finished a project and put it on the market, and we were expecting to make a decent amount, but it got bid up 20 grand over asking. And
Oh,
my son,
wow.
just like that. He's the only renovated house in the neighborhood, and inventory is so low everywhere that we're seeing a lot of buyer competition now. So that's another reason why we started to say, hey, let's do some flips while this inventory shortage is happening, because it can it can make all the difference for us.
So you're holding more, flipping them more. I mean, maybe, if you have access to funds, but your typical buyer, wholesale buyer doesn't, you'll end up making even more money because
Yeah,
you're gonna produce more value if you do more than just find the deal, right? You're taking it all the way
definitely.
to improved, end product or whatnot.
Yeah, and it helps it. It helps everyone. My wife lists our flips, and we have a whole. It helps everyone in the company here, and we've also considered. We also think that commercial is really going to take a beating. It already has commercial, retail, so we think there's going to be a lot of opportunity there for picking up commercial property that can be converted into residential. Because if a recession does happen and continues, I mean, I think we're going to see a demand for cheap rental house, a huge demand for cheaper rental housing. A lot of people lose houses, things like that. So we think that there's an opportunity to pick up some commercial properties to redevelop along the way. So we're keeping our options open, keeping our eyes out.
What areas are you doing the most deals in now, or finding the most homes?
We're doing
that people want to sell.
so our main market is the DMV, DC, the DC suburbs. So we go all the way up to the Baltimore suburbs in Maryland. We don't do Baltimore City, but we do the Baltimore County, Howard County, because they're great. We do really well there. DC, PG County, Anne Arundel County, Maryland. Most of Maryland, all of Northern Virginia, and all of DC. So we'll go down as far south as Fredericksburg, west as far as Frederick, and north as far as Bel Air.
Okay. And are you seeing some areas doing better right now, or some types of homes? I know you mentioned rentals and whatnot, but
Yeah.
like what areas and types of homes are you finding deals right now?
So we're finding, so one of the things we're finding more of now is we're starting to see more townhouses, more condos than we usually do, because they tend to be the things that people hold as rentals more so than single family, easier maintenance. It's all kind of consolidated there. So we're seeing more of that. We just contracted on a condo in Adelphi yesterday. And we're seeing PG County, Maryland. We think that's going to be the most affected by everything. Its prices went up the fastest. It has a ton of investors in it, and it's still kind of a middling market. It's one that's on the upswing, but there's a lot of really nice areas too. So we think there's going to be a lot of opportunity in PG, like there always has been. But we're finding more great deals than we had in the past was in the Baltimore suburbs, Anne Arundel County, Howard County, Baltimore County. We're seeing a lot of good deals out there.
Okay. Are you doing anything different with your marketing? It looks like you're holding more properties, but are you doing anything to market more, to get in front of more potential sellers?
We're the only thing we're really doing is we're purchasing lists. We're always checking out new list providers because we're pretty good at outbound cold prospecting. So we've got a process down that works really well. So we've been checking out new list providers. There's a lot of people that we didn't have that we wanted to test out. So we're looking at some different niche lists and things like that. Otherwise, we're just posting on our social media. Not even paid most of the time. Hey, we're still out here. We're reaching out to people. We're forming partnerships. We're trying to form new partnerships all the time. So that's the majority of our outreach.
Does that help you get more deals directly from sellers, or more deals that agents or other people bring you, or a combination of both?
It's definitely a combination. So the deals we get from sellers are directly from the seller, primarily from lists we buy and that we prospect to. We have partnerships with over a dozen other companies and individuals right now to work leads and get properties under contract, and those are direct from seller. We handle the whole process, but there's there's a partner involved there. So we're really keeping it to, I think we ended up in a good space because we don't have a lot of overhead. We have no debt. except for properties that we're working on right now. And we have enough cash to, kind of work our way through this. So, our gut was early on, hey, let's not spend a bunch of marketing money right now because we don't even know what's happening, and we still don't. I've heard that PPC is really getting killed out there. I don't know if you're hearing the same thing, but we decided to,
Google PPC.
Yeah.
We've had better, we've been getting online leads across the board for cheaper ever since the beginning of March. And my theory on that is there's more inventory basically because of the lockdown. So more people are online searching, more people are on social media. When you go into a job and work an 8-hour shift, you have a lot less time to Google stuff and to be on Facebook. So so they have more impressions and clicks to sell. So we've been having pretty good success with that.
Yeah, we've seen we've seen quite a bit of we've seen an uptick in people's urgency in a lot of cases, especially because I think people are starting to see that if they want to move, there's not going to be a lot available for them to move to if they don't hurry up, because the market is inventory is so tight, and that's what I'm seeing. We're seeing that everywhere in the DMV.
What kind of I think something good to talk about would be the synergies between having the investor business, but then through your wife the realtor business. And not everyone is going to be in the situation where their spouse is a real estate agent or an investor, depending on which category they fit in. But I think a lot of investors could benefit by partnering with agents and getting licensed, even if they're not going to really use it, getting licensed just so they can get referral fees. Because I imagine if you're getting 10 leads, 1 or 2 of them may be a good deal for you, and maybe half of them aren't really that serious, but then maybe there's a few that would be a good lead for a realtor to list and sell, because the house isn't like distressed or it would get more on the open market.
Oh yeah, I think it's we also founded a REIA group, the Real Deals Real Estate Investors Group. We benefited a ton from REIAs when we first started our business, so we wanted to start one to help newer people, and also as a way for lead gen. There's a lot of new people in there who are going to want to help with their deals or might want to bring us deals, and we want to be able to network with people that everyone can help each other. So I think the first thing I tell people in our REIA group in our meetings, if they're new, is I think you should get your real estate license, because helps you learn a little bit about the business. You can affiliate with a brokerage where you can have people that you can work with who might bring you deals. And also it's going to get you MLS access so you can learn how to run comps, because there's nothing more important than being able to properly value a property. That's the biggest thing where new investors get killed, is they mess up their ARV and they end up with a bad deal. So I think that's it's absolutely my advice to get your real estate license. And I also think there's tremendous value in partnering with as many agents as possible. When someone thinks about selling their house, I would say that 99.9% of them think of an agent they know, or think I should call a real estate agent. Very few people say, hey, you know what, I should call Matt Fullerton at Chesapeake House Hunter. They say, oh, I need to call a real estate agent. And then they happen to go online, look for something, and they see, hey, Chesapeake House Hunters is buying in this area, or X and X is. And so a lot of times realtors hear about these deals first, and then they go on the MLS, and if it's a good investment deal, good luck on the good luck getting it off the MLS. At least in this area, it's not 2014 anymore. So so I always tell agents, look, if you bring it right to me, you don't have to deal with buyer's agents. You don't have to deal with paperwork. You keep all the commission, because we don't charge any commission. We don't charge, we pay all closing and stuff. So not only are we a good deal for your seller, but we're a good deal for you. And that's been our general pitch. And it's worked great. I mean, we've done two of our best deals. We had a 6-figure wholesale that an agent brought us. So it's there's tremendous value in partnering with. And look, don't get me wrong. I know that agents and investors I'm sure you know better than anybody. Agents and investors don't always get along the best. I've slandered agents a few times in my career, and I'm sure I've been rightfully slandered by agents. But yeah, I think it's all the better if we can all work together.
Yeah, I agree, and I think it's something for agents to consider, finding more people like you to partner with, and the investors to find agents as well. And it just helps you capture more of the value and give more options to more people.
Yeah, I totally
And
agree.
when you can do that, uh, it's a win-win for everyone. So uh, really cool having you on today. Before we wrap up, I want to do our hyper fast round. It's some just quick answers and questions if you're ready to go.
Yeah, I'm ready, man.
Awesome. What's your biggest piece of advice to a new real estate investor?
Oh man, I would say my biggest, don't get trapped in other people's dogma. You're going to hear a lot of, people who have a lot of different stories to tell, and they're all going to be unique. And some people are going to give you advice that's just not going to work for you, and some people are going to give you advice that's great. So I would say, take all the advice, take it all in, but take it with a grain of salt. Don't get trapped in anyone else's thought process. Don't get trapped in anyone else's ideas. Make sure you do what's right for you and what the best fit is for you.
All right. What about same question, but for an experienced investor?
For an experienced investor, I would say don't get locked. It'd be similar, but don't get locked into your own plan, your own realm of thinking. Like I think that we all have these thought processes, and the older we get, the more locked in we are. So what I try to do is, when I feel like I'm being, real rigid about things, I try to say, hey, is there another way to make this deal? Is there another way to look at this? And I think the way that people can do that is by going out and getting experience. Yeah, I'm networking, going to RIA meetups, joining masterminds, going out and meeting other people. That's an important thing. Our mastermind has been hugely beneficial for us, getting other perspectives from other professionals in the industry. So I would absolutely say make sure you're always thinking a step ahead, a way to, if something happens in your business, what do you like? If all of a sudden you can't wholesale anymore, what are you going to do? If you can't flip anymore, all of a sudden, what would you do? And that's what we try to keep in mind and have something on the ready in case something happens.
Yeah, I agree. Even if you've had years of success, you have to be willing to pivot and do new things. I think one kind of easy example really is if you look at Apple, like
Yeah,
if they were still trying to sell iPods today, they'd be toast, right? And there's
yeah,
probably like a whole generation of people now that never even had an iPod because
yeah.
they replaced it with the iPhone and iPad.
I remember thinking the iPod was some sort of magical device when it came out, man. Coolest thing
Yeah.
I'd ever. Not anymore though.
What was the biggest challenge you had on a deal or anything involving real estate, and how'd you solve it or overcome it or mitigate it?
Oh man, I'd say the biggest challenge we faced was having to generate leads without any marketing. And we without it, and I think we talked about that. And what you have to do is it's a cliche term, but think a little bit outside the box. Hey, think about if you have something that's standing in your way. There's not always just one way to solve a problem. Like it's not only TV, PPC, direct mail, social media that you can use for marketing. You can go out and still reach out to people and still make deals. So I would say that was by far the hardest challenge we've had to overcome. Otherwise, man, I really sounds bad, but I really don't think this stuff is necessarily rocket science. I think if you just are a decent person and want to help people and go out there and try to make good deals for everybody, you should be successful.
Yeah, I agree. And I had this conversation with someone earlier this week, an agent team out in California, and we were actually talking about um, people of different socioeconomic status and um, race and cultures and why they're sometimes underrepresented in real
Yeah,
estate. And I think a lot of people just may not know about the opportunity either as an investor or agent because they all have extremely low barriers to enter. Like you don't have to have a fancy degree or a ton of money to get started. So
yeah,
um,
I agree.
hopefully through like these RIA groups and that like I know you said you've got one, we've got one. Hopefully things like that and just general education, social media will help make it people more aware so that more people get into this that maybe have never thought about it before.
Yeah.
Um, if you're not doing a deal or working on your business, where would people find you? What would you be doing?
Well, yeah, I have a couple other jobs too. Right now I consult for a company out in California, helping them set up their sales team and get sales training done and things like that. And so I've get offered those kind of things a lot, and I always turn them down. But this ended up being kind of one of those offer you can't refuse type of situations. So I'm engaged with that for the next month, and then otherwise, I mean, I'm an outdoor guy. I try to spend as much time as I can, fishing in the woods, or we love to travel. We try to take, last year we took 7 weeks of vacation. Our plan this year was to do 8 to 10, but obviously that got shot early on. But we're big travel people. We're big outdoor people.
Where do you do your fishing at? On the bay or?
Oh man, yeah. So all over the place. We go out on charters on the bay. We have a 2-acre farm pond on our property. It's full of good-sized largemouths and bluegills. I go offshore, out in the Atlantic a couple times a year. When we're down in the Caribbean, I always find a way to go, go fly fishing or reef fishing or something like that. So everywhere, anywhere I can.
All right. Last question. Where do you see yourself in 5 years?
In 5 years, I'm still going to be a couple years short of my total detachment goal from real estate and from working. So I see myself setting up the companies that I'm part of for my exit at that point, more than likely, and making sure that my portfolio is nice and rounded out so that ideally, I want to do. I think I always say I'm gonna by the time I'm 40, I'm gonna detach and kind of just do things that I want to do. But I think I'll always have a presence. I think I'll always invest, maybe on a smaller scale. But what I really want to do is when that happens is environmental work. And environmental work isn't high paying, so I need to have money set up so that I can, continue our lifestyle while I do that environmental work.
Awesome. Well, it's great that you're thinking of an exit plan and how to do it. A lot of agents and investors don't really consider that. So it's awesome to hear from you. And this has been a great show. You gave out a ton of advice. I mean, how to find investor deals without marketing. There's no agent in the world that doesn't need to hear that and learn that. So hopefully you'll impact a lot of people. Thanks for being on the show. Before we sign off, if people want to bring you a deal or get help or join your RIA or just connect with you, what are the best ways for people to reach out to you?
So they're reaching out to me on social media, like on Facebook is a great way because I'm always maintaining our pages and working on our RIA group in there, talking to people who post in our RIA group. Our RIA is the Real Deals Real Estate Investors Group. So if you want to join, just ask and I'll accept you. If you want to reach me personally, my email is Matt, MATT, at CHESHOUSE hunters.com. So Matt at chesshousehunters.com. Feel free to reach out to me. If you have a deal that you need help moving or leads that you need help working, reach out and we can talk about it. Happy to help.
All right. Well, happy to have you on the show. Thanks again. And thank you everyone for tuning in, and I'll see you next time.
Thanks, Dan.
All right, man. Thanks.
Thank you, sir.
We'll let you know when it goes live, probably in a month or so.
You got it. Yeah, let me know if you need me for anything in the meantime. I really appreciate you having me on, man. It was good to meet you.
Yeah, it's great meeting you. Have an awesome weekend.
You too, man. See ya.
Hey guys, thanks for sticking around to the end. If you want to see more videos like this, click right here. And if you want 10 tips from Sunil and I on how we've built wealth through real estate, click right here to download them instantly. And if you're new to the channel, click below to subscribe and turn on post notifications so you don't miss out. And let me know in the comments what you think about the videos. I read them weekly and I pick winners at random. And I give out stuff like hats, shirts, coaching calls with me, and tickets to some of our events. I'll see you next time.